the shooting range. In this episode, pages of history, British Frenzied flying desk, Arsenal, Skyhawk's best toys, and metal beasts, Pancake tank. The King of Battle update is already available to all players, so it makes all the sense to continue talking about fresh vehicles. And today's machine, without exaggeration, or should we say without underestimation in this case. Well, anyways, this is the most unusual tank in the game. Did the mouse drive over it? Or did the engineers forget to change the vertical scale on the blueprint? In any case, please welcome the Soviet Object 775 missile tank. Its main weaponry is a two-plane stabilized 125mm missile launcher with elevation angles between -5 and +18 degrees. The ammo is stored in the front and center of the hull. The engine and transmission compartment is in the rear, while the entire crew of only 2 is in the turret. The tank is protected by composite armor. Gameplay with the object is vastly different from its counterparts. First, you need to stop laughing and crying before you can treat it seriously. That alone can take a couple battles. Once you actually start playing it, you need to resist the temptation to use the adjustable suspension. Because if you make the 775 even lower, you'll have to relearn it all over again. You're also going to be stuck with the feeling that the lower part of the tank is sinking into the void. Alright, jokes aside, we're above that. As per original design, this layout gives the vehicle a few advantages. A low profile makes it harder to spot, and its front is protected by composite armor mounted at a good angle. The object can even deflect early finned rounds, not to mention weaker shells. There's also the surprise effect we need to mention. In general, players are used to keeping their barrel level, since most tanks have a similar height. No one really minds their step. You shouldn't rely on this armor too much though. It has its vulnerabilities, and with a layout this tight, any penetration might be its last. One of the worst areas is the gun mantlet. Spalling will surely knock out at least one of the 2 crew members. The object itself can launch 2 types of ordnance, the Rubin guided missile and the Boer unguided missile. We recommend picking the ATGM as the main one. It flies pretty fast, controls well enough, and can penetrate up to 500mm of armor. It also has a high reload rate and can be launched on the move. The object comes with some flaws as well. Being able to become lower than grass and entrench itself after just a few digs is amazing, sure. But there's also quite a few firing positions you might be used to that the 775 is simply too short for. Add to that the traditionally poor depression angles and an even worse reverse speed. One more thing left. Just out of curiosity, what if we mixed it with the STRV-74? Would that make a regular tank? Our regular viewers may remember episode 243, where we talked about the so-called flying desk frenzy. Patient Zero originated in Sweden in 1963. The Saab 105 was originally meant to be both a training and a strike aircraft. The engineers probably didn't know what kind of pandemic they were unleashing onto the world. Or did they? In any case, we know the outcome. Once the Vietnam War began, they attempted to convert pretty much every training jet into a light strike aircraft. It even affected models that had no chances of being used in Vietnam. Flying desk frenzy spared no one. Perhaps one of the most remarkable victims of that pandemic was the British Jet Provost, a true airborne aristocrat with a long lineage. It was a deep modernization of the Percival Provost prop aircraft, and as such couldn't boast a high flight performance. All it had was simple handling and a low price tag. It felt like one of the worst choices for loading bombs and rockets. How on earth could it catch the trendy bug? Well, its easy handling and low price tag were to blame. After a simple conversion, this training jet turned into a true poor man's strike aircraft. And with a new fearsome name of Strike Master, it even had some combat spirit. The British Aircraft Corporation actually knew perfectly well what they were doing. They saw enormous demand for exactly this kind of strike aircraft. Had they hesitated, potential clients would have instantly bought similar machines from the competition. Italians, French, Americans, or even the Soviet Union and its allies. The latter was busy rearming the Czechoslovakian L-29, by the way. So the Strike Masters ultimately joined the militaries of many nations, including Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, Ecuador, and even multiple African countries. Even the less wealthy nations like Botswana, Yemen, and Sudan could afford a few. BAC would have had even more clients if not for the competition being so tough. Ironically, the United Kingdom's own Air Force never accepted this Frenzied flying desk into service. In fact, the only Commonwealth nation that used it was New Zealand, which meant this aircraft had almost no chance of seeing real combat. The UK military command was pretty skeptical about it, since the tiny operational trainer couldn't fit any decent guns. Only a couple small caliber machine guns? No, gentlemen, this is no strike aircraft. We'd rather wait for a more serious contender. The famous Hawk Siddeley is releasing their Hawk in no time. Meanwhile, the Strike Master had a long, dutiful service, performing both roles, training and strike aircraft. Once it even had a chance to take part in a real conflict, the short Cenepa War between Peru and Ecuador. It happened in 1995, and by that time, most of its counterpart, like the Maki MB-326 or the French Fougas Magister, had been retired to museums. Less wealthy nations didn't want to part with their favorite budget striker, so they kept on using it until age-related issues finally chained it to the ground. Only after one of the Ecuadorian aircraft crashed were they finally retired. It happened as late as in 2009, when the third generation of operational jet trainers was already in service. Some unarmed machines still perform at air shows today. Well, the Strike Master was an amazing example of first-gen jet trainers turned strike aircraft, and it had a long, successful life. And it also turned out pretty beautiful, don't you think? After your requests in the comments, today's arsenal will talk about the Skyhawk family, from the earliest A4B to the Israeli A4N Ait. Let's start with air combat loadouts. Most A4s can carry multiple Sidewinder and Shafrir missiles. They don't add a heavy load, and these aircraft attack fast enemies trying to fly away in a straight line. There's another good loadout giving you a nice firepower buff. Any A4 can take up to 3 gun pods with 20mm autocannons. This turns the little Skyhawks into fearsome enemies in any frontal attack and makes it easier for them to use energy tactics. The price for that is speed and maneuverability. Gun pods take a toll on the already medium flight performance of the aircraft. Besides, you'll have to discard missiles if you want to use gun pods on some models. You can try to find optimal balance by combining missiles and gun pods in your loadouts. Now, the air-to-surface arsenal offers you much more variety. For conventional bombs, we recommend you pick calibers between 500 pounds or 250 kilograms and 1,000 pounds. Smaller bombs are harder to use without a ballistic computer, while the 2,000-pound one replaces 3 1,000-pound bombs, which definitely makes it less versatile. If you're looking for something extra for those bombs, take some air-to-air missiles or rockets. We can't help but recommend the large-caliber Zuni rockets. They're amazing against lightly armored or open-top vehicles. The Skyhawk was one of the first to receive guided air-to-surface ordnance in the game. Modification B, for instance, can carry up to 3 AGM-12B bullpup missiles. They used to be the most advanced CAS weapon, but more modern weaponry has been added since. Still, it doesn't mean that the bullpups can't bring you frags, especially if you train aiming them. The American A4E can take up to 5 AGM-12 missiles, but we suggest you replace 2 of them with TV-guided walleye bombs. The fire-and-forget principle makes them much handier. The Israeli Skyhawks have more TV-guided bombs. They can carry both AGM-62 and GBU-8, which helps them to effectively suppress enemy air defenses from safe altitudes. External hardpoints are better filled with AAMs. Combining guided and unguided weaponry is rarely a good idea in practice. Now, the Israeli A4N Ait can offer truly impressive ordnance. Besides guided bombs, it can also carry the AGM-65 Maverick missiles. Of course, they also cost many more spawn points, so you shouldn't ignore bomb sets. We believe the best combo for the top Skyhawk is 3 Mavericks, 2 bombs, and 2 AAMs. This set provides you with 5 almost guaranteed ground frags and good chances against enemy aircraft. There's an alternative option with extra bullpups on external hardpoints. You can use it just as well, but in practice it often feels redundant. We believe you may want to keep this set for the rare cases where enemy air defenses are already taken out and you only expect ground targets. Well, we hope you find these hints on Skyhawk loadouts useful. Tell us in the comments what aircraft you'd like to see next. Meanwhile, it's time for us to answer some of your questions. The first question was sent by a player called Jaden Hager. Could the Su-22 M3 squadron vehicle be used as an air-to-air interceptor? Hey Jaden, thanks to a powerful engine, the Su-22 M3 shows one of the best levels of flight performance in the family. But it's still a poor choice for air combat since it can only use rear aspect missiles and has a low number of countermeasures. AJ the Flame asks, what are all the aircraft with a helmet-mounted seeker? Hello, AJ. The list of aircraft with HMDs includes the F-16C, the Barak 2, all MiG-29s, the Yak-141, the F-4S and J, the Mirage 2005F, and the J-8F. Another question comes from Nikiewicz. Why does it look like someone forgot the rudders on the floaties of the HE-115C1? Hi there, Nikiewicz. Well, we gotta agree with you here. The floaters look like they could use some rudders in the back. Alas, there are none. Mebix writes, the A4E early has a little triangle above the pilot. Does it have any meaning? Hi Mebix, it's just a fin-shaped antenna. This kind of shape improves air drag. And the last comment for today was written by I Have Skill Issue in War Thunder again. What's the difference between the Leopard 2A5 and 2A5 PSO? Hi! Subscribe to our channel and you might remedy your skill issue. Shorten your nickname a little too. Now, the Leopard's 2A5 have different engines, armor, machine guns, and one of them has a dozer blade. That's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. Don't forget to add your favorite topping to Object 775, leave a like, share your thoughts and comments, and see you next week.